Hi, Evan. Let me tell you that George Clayton Johnson story before I forget again and never get back to it. I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to save the eye strain by doing it on video. And I think I can only send 30-second videos through Twitter. So I'll do it in as few videos as I can cram it into, and I'll send them sequentially. It was the year was 2000, and I was Forey's guest at the the Cult Movies magazine convention in Hollywood, at the Hollywood Roosevelt Cult Movies convention, it was called. And I had all my meals with Forey except for one, when I went out into the dining room by myself. So I was sitting there having a sandwich, and suddenly in walked this fellow who I recognized instantly because he was an extraordinary looking person, as you know, very tall, thin, and that extraordinarily long gray beard, wide-brimmed hat. I knew instantly it was George Clayton Johnson. So I stood up and I said, "George Clayton Johnson, the Twilight Zone, Nothing in the Dark, Kick the Can." And this big grin came on his face. He loved being recognized. And he loved being recognized, I think, particularly because his appearance wasn't advertised. He wasn't a scheduled guest. So while I had met some other great people there as guests, in his case, he was just another visitor to the convention. And he had this big shopping bag with him. He was very pleased to be recognized, and that I obviously was able to say what some of his works were. And this grin came on his face, and he joined me at the table. And we visited for about 15 minutes, I think. He told me a story about Charles Beaumont that I've been trying to remember now for 16 years, and I'll never remember it, and it kills me. I remember I love the story at the moment, but it's gone. And I told him that Forey Ackerman, Ray Bradbury, and Ray Harryhausen were my holy trinity, and that made him laugh, and he gave me a high five, the only high five I've received in my life. That was a highlight of the day. And then when he got up to leave, he said, "Well, here, Stuart, I've got something for you." And he reached into the shopping bag, and in it there were stacks of a book of his called Stories and Scripts from the Twilight Zone. And he gave me a copy. He inscribed a copy to me, which I'll show you here. Okay, here's the book that he gave me, George Clayton Johnson, Twilight Zone Scripts and Stories. And he illustrated it. I think that's him waving. "Hi, Stuart. Stay strong. George Clayton Johnson, 2000. Isn't that great? It's just what it says, his various scripts and stories for the Twilight Zone. So obviously that was a great thrill for me, a great deal of fun, and one of the highlights of the great adventure that the whole trip comprised. And one other little curious incident happened with George Clayton Johnson. Later that day, or maybe the next day, there was a showing of some documentary about him or in which he figured. I've never been able to recall what this was. Maybe you can find out for me, but I'll tell you something about it. The entire trip, not the entire trip, but the convention lasted 3 days, and I tried to stay awake for every minute of it, and I propped myself up on caffeine, and it, of course, ruined my, my already fragile mind and distorted or obliterated a lot of potential memories. So I can't recall the specifics of this, but I saw this documentary. I was on the front row, and he himself was sitting at my left, and in the documentary, he was nude for a brief moment. It was a documentary about him. It had been made years earlier. It was about his personal life, his life with his wife, and he was something of a hippie. And during this brief moment, he came, I think, running down a hill. And it was a moment of full frontal nudity, and it caused laughter in the audience, and he was laughing, sitting at my elbow. So that's my George Clayton Johnson story. It's great talking to you, Evan. Nice meeting you on Twitter again. Bye-bye. Try to find out what that is for me.